Hey everyone, it's Ryan, and today we're going to jump into some industry news. I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. YouTube, I think it was last month or the month before, I was talking about how YouTube and TikTok are clearly, going, stars are aligning, they're head to head, they're going at each other when it comes to shorts, and YouTube is really trying to amp this up. And actually, as of May 2nd, YouTube embellishes shorts ads as monetization struggles endure. The key thing here is that the move sees YouTube looking to stay relevant in the competitive short-form landscape and arrives as the platform's declining ad revenue continues to pose a challenge for Google and parent company Alphabet. They're trying to stay relevant in the competitive short-form landscape, aka TikTok. TikTok has been absolutely destroying them recently, and especially with view, time on channel, time on videos. It's just, even though they're short, it's almost like dopamine. They're saying, hey, we're getting shellacked. We need to start figuring out how we can actually gain back market segment, especially from shorts. I like the move. I think that they have to. I have a feeling that this will be very advantageous to advertisers. Further on in the article, they talk about how there's going to be a point where I think ads are the value, whether it's a CPM, I know it's a little bit different with view time, is going to be advantageous for YouTube. So I think that this is a good time to be looking at shorts as a marketer or a company. You have to be checking it out and saying, hey, let's put content there, because there is going to be a push toward that in their algorithm. It only makes sense. There's no other way in which they're going to be able to compete with what is going on and how TikTok is dominating. Last thing I want to say about this is that it's not that YouTube is getting absolutely crushed. So they dropped first quarter revenue 3% year over year to $6.69 billion. Okay, so contributing to 2 consecutive quarters of advertising revenue declines for Google. So that's an unclear statement, and I went into that article on Google a little bit more. That's across the whole, Google universe. So it's not just that YouTube. It is attributed to YouTube, but again, I wouldn't necessarily put too much weight into that. What I'd put more weight into is, quarter over quarter decline. That's what is a little bit more scary. I do think, though, that that's kind of the nature of the economy and where we're at, less about their shorts performing compared to TikTok. I think that they're two different ideas here. So, but just it's interesting to keep an eye on it. I kind of called this out last month that this was going to be a definite push for YouTube, and here we are. They're definitely making strides to try to gain market share of users' eyeballs. Okay, so I want to talk about how AI is going into. You'd think, oh, it's Chat GPT and Mid-Journey and all these things that are very obvious. I want to talk about something else that is now is at play for marketers, creators, and beer company. Bex has just rolled out what they're calling Bex Autonomous. Bex is releasing just 450 autonomous limited edition beers across Germany, Italy, and the UK. I think that's incredible in the sense that to celebrate their 150-year milestone, they're going to launch all these new flavors and beers across these countries as a test. They're going to be able to track kind of how they perform, how they sell. It is going to come down to CPG. It's going to come down to how do they sell, how do they, what's the return purchase rate and whatnot. But it is interesting that they're using AI to drive the research into plants that could produce additional flavors. It's not just, creating cool images, which I think they actually are using something like Mid-Journey to create images of a beer and making it look, cool. I'm not a beer drinker, but still, I think that's neat. But they're taking it a step further, is that using AI to say, hey, what flavors and combinations can be done? And this 450 different flavors, that's pretty impressive. People always say, oh, AI, it's not going to last, or it's scary, or oh, we need to do all AI. You want to be at least aware of what's going on. I don't think it will ever replace humans as far as our intellectual property and thought. However, I think it really makes us where we can scale and do more at a more efficient clip. even if you think of just computers in general, iPhone and Samsung devices, how much faster is so much of what we do now versus 20 years ago? And some industries needed to evolve. I think that I was at Panera yesterday, and there's one person taking orders, and there's 3 kiosks where you can just tap in your order, or there's the app. I walked up just to buy a bagel or something, and there's a line of 3 people, and yet all the kiosks are open. So I just used the kiosk because it's not that I was in a hurry, but it was more convenience. And so I think that does make sense. But when it comes to replacing, there's no humans, there's no chefs, there's no cooks, there's no one to take your order. That's where I get a little bit like, is this just a vending machine now? Like, where do you draw a line of, okay, full vending machine? And this is not an actual experience. And I think that where it's going to take even longer is the experience in the artificial intelligence when it comes to intellectual property. That's where they're not going to be able to round that bend anytime soon, in my opinion. The article talks about how the campaign, the bottle, the packaging, everything was designed by AI. Okay, so 2 things. Number 1, I do think that's a load of it, because the fact there has to be a creative director who has a vision for what it should look like, that has to get approved. And I know the way any company worth their salt, they're not just going to say, approved. The computer came up with it, done. No. That's just not going to happen. There's going to be an approval process and stakeholders that are going to sign off on it, period. So that's kind of a little bit of a line that they're trying to just entice us to read the article and say, oh, wow, it was all built by AI. The second thing is that this is where there is an opportunity for us as creative professionals or brand designers or developers, is that learning the language of AI. And what I mean by that is learning how to understand what you put in. You don't put design beer bottle and enter, and then it designs the beer bottle. It's actually setting up a queue of signals and keywords to actually help it render out what you're looking for. That's where, again, our minds, our intellectual property, our intelligence helps power AI to generate what we want. So that's where I'm going to say that number 1, there's approvals that had to have happened. There's no way they're just going to put out an AI piece of content as done. That's it. Number 2, I do think that there is an opportunity for us as professionals in this service space where we can learn the languages that help guide it. I have played a lot with Midjourney, and clearly there's things that you can programmatically input to get the desired outcome. For instance, you talk about the hair and the boots or the shoes that they're wearing, and you'll get a full body rendition of a character or a design of a model. Yet you just talk about their eyes and their features of their face, you're just going to get a headshot. So there's things that are a lot of assumptions based in AI generated content that if you don't know the language and how to, in a sense, think in a weird way like what the computer will generate, you're going to end up with, substandard content. Okay, Netflix, no password sharing, or people moving away from Netflix. So here's the thing. I have a belief that Netflix, this is more of a concern over their content and less about their passwords. I also think sometimes these topics are put out there to get free press. I think that Netflix is more concerned about being relevant than necessarily stalking everyone for their passwords. Are they putting levers in place to turn off accounts? Yes, and I think they should. I think that my beliefs on this is that don't share passwords, don't steal. We've had some very heated debates where it's like, well, the content creators, Netflix is just a business. Yeah, but all their original series, good, bad, ugly. Some of them I can't stand, some of them never watch, some of them I never would watch, some of them I love. Well, there are a team of creatives behind all of those productions. And when you're sharing a password, how is that person who's watching, who's partaking of that content, paying the people that created that content? So there's kind of an ethical decision that people need to make on sharing passwords or downloading content from the internet. Oh, it's free on this channel in a foreign country. Wait a second, what do you mean it's free? This movie's still in theaters. That's not free, that's pirating or stealing, in my opinion. Again, I know I'm kind of in the minority here, but I am a purist when it comes to paying creatives for what they have earned and deserved and worked toward. I also believe that I pay more at the box office because more people steal. And I also think artists deserve the craft and the value of the content they create. Streaming services are almost more expensive than cable now. Yeah. So I have a huge kind of opinion, not a huge opinion. I have an opinion on this that I don't like, that I used to pay, I don't know, $60 for cable, maybe $80. I don't know what I paid for cable, but I paid a monthly bill. And I had a lot of shows that I'd watch or DVR or, watch content. Now I cut off cable years ago, but I probably have 6 or 7, 8 services that are the same price or more, and now I really can't find what to watch. So I'm kind of wondering what happened and what's going on and why do we have these streaming services. So I think that over time what's going to happen is there has to be a gelling, a collaborative effort of these, and not just bundle. I think you can bundle Hulu and Disney and a couple of them together and ESPN, and you can bundle them all together because they're owned by, I don't know, is it ABC, whatever. But I think there has to be more than that. I think the content, there is too much bad content out there. So a lot of people threaten that, with what happened with Love is Blind, guilty pleasure, I do watch it with my wife. I fall asleep when we're watching it, but I do watch it while, I've been, I think it's 4 seasons now, how many seasons? 3? Whatever. And I watch it and I partake in the train wreck of a show that it is. But here's what I'm going to say is that people are all threatening and they got blasted on Twitter and social media channels for not having their live stream event of their last episode go live. And Netflix has tried this a handful of times. I think they've had 2 or 3 successful live events, quote unquote. But I think the big thing with this one is that it has a pretty wide following of consumers, of viewers. And I think what happened is that they weren't prepared for the amount that would actually try to watch the content. And now there's petitions being signed that we're dropping Netflix, we're cutting the Netflix cord. I don't know how that is even possible. I think that what's going to happen is people aren't. They're gonna still subscribe. They might threaten, but I just don't think they're going to leave. Now, what I think Netflix is going to lose people on is the quality of the content. I think it's just going to come down to quality. I think they continue to put out really bad originals and don't continue to partner with really good movies that have been released, out after running in theaters. Except for Beef. Beef was awesome. But I think if they don't continue to create good content, they're going to suffer. And I think they also need to look at more segmentation of their content. So for instance, you just shouted out an original that I enjoyed, but I feel like I still get catered content that I just would never watch. And it's maybe because my wife and I, sometimes we just don't log out of each other's profiles. But I do think there needs to be some kind of tweaking of their content to really make it catered to content that I would care about and enjoy, rather than just stuff that there's no way I like this. Why is this showing up in my feed? So I think that's where they can improve on and make it a better customer experience, where you're not just receiving stuff that you would never watch. And that's more important on the kids side. I've seen some content show up on kids that was MA, and so I think they're going to lose customers more for stuff like that, where they're whoops, but is it a whoops or is it intentional? I don't see why Netflix would do that. That's stupid. But when your profile is set up for a kid under 13 or whatever it is, why are they receiving that type of content? So I think they're going to have more churn, more people leaving due to that, rather than, and the quality of their content, rather than, you can't share your password. That's just, people know they were in the wrong. That's not Netflix's fault. When Netflix is in the wrong, when they mess up the filtering of content based on the user, that's on Netflix. That is actually a Netflix issue. Not sharing passwords, that's the consumer's issue that they have to address. Can they get up in arms and stomp their feet? Yeah, they can, but I don't think they're going to cut because of that. I think they're going to cut, and there's going to be more of a movement toward the quality of content and showing content to the wrong audiences. So, okay. Thanks for watching. Really enjoyed the news today. Really cool topics on AI and how Netflix is doing what Netflix does, and also how YouTube, how they're fighting back. Hope you enjoyed, and talk with you soon.